Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a real grudge match, a head-to-head 10-round watch boxing special to find out who makes the best $200 dive watch you can buy today in 2022. In the red corner, representing Japan, we have the reigning champ, the venerable Orient Kamasu. I'm a big fan of the Kamasu, heralding it as the champ back in 2020 when it was released, and then saying that I believed it had held on to that crown when I had another look at it only 6 months ago. But has my opinion changed since then? Is there now a new number one? In the second red corner, representing China, it's the San Martin SN0036, a watch which blew me away in terms of the sheer quality on offer for the money they're charging when I first saw this one a couple of months ago. So we know it's well made, but does it have what it takes to dethrone the king? That's what we'll try and establish today. Now, bring it in a minute. We've probably all got a fair idea how this one is going to go. Perhaps not the final score, but at least the relative strengths and weaknesses of these two very similarly priced watches. We probably also have a fair idea of which one we would buy with our own money and which one we would recommend to someone else if asked to suggest a $200 dive watch. But this head-to-head format, the way I run these versus competitions, is designed to try and account for the differences between big, well-established brands and newer brands. So I'm really interested to see how my scoring system gets on today, whether it does indeed give us a reflective final score, whether it does indeed pick the true winner or not. Okay, I'm excited. I can't wait to get stuck into these two. Seconds out, round one. Alright, let's get on with it and let's start in traditional boxing terms with a weigh-in, the vital statistics of each of these watches, starting with the pretender, the contender, the San Martin. So this 0036 is pretty much a brand new model launched earlier on this year. Great set of on-paper dimensions, a smidge over 41mm, but bringing it back down with 20mm lug width. 165 grams, it's got plenty of presence, but it's not obscenely heavy given that slightly larger than average diameter dimension. The San Martin today is trying to take the belt from the Orient Kamasu. The Kamasu was launched at the perfect time for Orient, just as the Seiko SKX was discontinued. Great set of on-paper dimensions as well here today, 42 with 22mm lug widths, but it's slightly slimmer than the San Martin and slightly lighter than the San Martin. I will talk about wear today a bit later on. But I'll start today by talking about price because you all know I love to talk about price. Both of these watches cost just about the same money, just about $200, hence both get 9s. Now the current price on the San Martin official store on AliExpress, I'll leave a link to both of these in the description of the video obviously, is $230 something. However, during the recent sale, it was available for under $200. I contacted the official store, asked them to sharpen their pencil. You'll find a $30 discount code in the description of the video, valid for the next 2 weeks, bringing this one back down to just over $200. If you're watching this video after that point, wait for a sale, you'll get it for under $200, no problem at all. I'll also leave links to JOMASHOP to pick up one of these Orients, they have the best prices. You're looking at $199 for a couple of different colour versions, up to $209 for another couple of different colour versions. So hey, let's call that an average of $205. Well within our 10% tolerance today. Both of these watches score 9 out of 10 for price therefore. So there are 10 different criteria I'm judging these watches against. 2 of them are double weighted, as always, it's movement and brand. As I said, this scoring system I think helps balance out established brands versus newer pretenders. The movement, always important, especially with an auto, so I double weight movement. Now in this instance, the San Martin, a disappointing 6 double to 12, the Orient, a very solid 8 double to 16. Now the reason the San Martin gets a 6 is because it's fitted with a Miyota 8215, not my favourite movement. This image courtesy of Caliber Corner, I will leave a link to their essential resource in the description of the video today as well. 21 jewel, hand winding but not hacking, and it only winds in one direction. Plus when I unscrew the crown and pull it out to the first position, it's a ghost date. When I pull it out to the second position, as discussed, no hacking, 6 out of 10. The Orient scores an 8 because it's fitted with an in-house F6922. Somewhat ironically, I've seen this movement rebranded as an Epson YN55 and fitted to San Martins. Why didn't they use it in this case? Both movements have roughly 40-hour power reserves, but this one hacks and hand winds. It's slightly noisier, slightly grittier than a Seiko, but it's still pretty good for the money, 8 out of 10. Next category, a nice quickie. Crystal. One of the reasons why the Kamasu has been so popular and so widely accepted is because it is fitted with sapphire, unlike the similarly priced Seiko divers. The San Martin is also fitted with sapphire, but it's a nicer bit of sapphire. Double domed with anti-reflective undercoating gets this one a 9. Flat sapphire with no anti-reflective undercoating only gets the Orient a 7. However, those two scores are reversed when it comes to lume. The San Martin does okay for itself here, as you'll see over the course of my 20-minute test, but it's no match for the Kamasu. The lume on the Kamasu is great for a $200 watch. It won a previous installment of Lume Wars. That's how good the lume on the Kamasu is. 9 for the Kamasu, not quite so good, 7 for the San Martin. But the pendulum swings back in the San Martin's favour once more when I talk about case and case back fit and finish. A very strong 8, Orient middle of the road, 6. The standard of fit and finish on these affordable San Martin watches is just ridiculously good. It's finished like a $500-600 watch, I think. Lovely, fine brushing, nice high polish there. We have a proper sign crown, etched sign crown, slightly recessed into the case. And look at that case back. I mean, the shark is nothing special. If I had $1 for every time I had seen a shark on a watch, I would be richer than I am now. But just look at the quality. It's not a particularly intricately finished case though, no chamfered edges, etc. So it only scores an 8, but it's a pretty good looking piece for under $200 on sale. The case fit and finish on the Orient by comparison is okay, but certainly not on the same level. You get a mixture of brushed upper surface, high polish on the side, but neither are as rich, neither are as fine as you'll find on the San Martin. The case back is also much more basic looking. I know we don't give out prizes for casebacks generally, but it is indicative of the quality of the watch. Orient do at least sign their crowns, but it's just painted on rather than etched like the San Martin, 6 out of 10. But the area where there is the biggest gulf between these two watches is the bracelet. A perfect 10 for the San Martin, the only 10 on the board today. Another middle of the road 6 for the Orient. I really don't need to say much here, I just need to let these images speak for themselves. The bracelet on the San Martin I don't think belongs on a $200 watch, $500 watch plus, I think. It is just beautifully done. Look how fine the brushing is. You've got those high polish edges to the mid links. You've got high polish chamfers. It's proper screws. They're thick. It's solid end links, and the clasp is just gorgeous. Again, that is an inlaid San Martin hexagonal logo, 4 holes of micro adjust, milled upper, milled lower, double security pushers. The bracelet just oozes quality on this, certainly far beyond the price they're charging for this watch. The Orient bracelet, on the other hand, well, it's pretty much what you'd expect from a big Japanese brand for $200. It has hollow end links, push pins holding them together. The standard of finish is just nowhere near the standard of finish found on the San Martin. The clasp has a pressed upper, pressed lower. It does have a security fold over and double pushers. It also has the branding, but it's just stamped in rather than inlaid. It is comfortable, it's not something you have to put in the bin and seek a replacement straight out of the box, but it's nothing special, 6 out of 10. Next up, it's bezel and bezel insert. An important factor here when we're dealing with dive watches, an important tactile element. Again, the San Martin showing its quality, 8. The Orient, middle of the road, 6. Again, the standard of finishing, machining on the bezel on the San Martin is well above that of the Orient. Ceramic insert as well gets it an extra point. It loses 2 points though because it's not fully loomed, as you saw from the loom shot earlier on. Only the pip is loomed and the edge is a little bit sharp. So only 8 out of 10, but a nice action. Yeah, nice and grippy. A pleasure to deal with this one. Nothing particularly wrong with the Orient bezel or the bezel insert. It is aluminium. It does have those slightly fussy little indents. That's a stylistic thing though. That's not really what we're looking at today. In terms of grip, it's smoother than the San Martin, not quite as grippy, a little bit stiffer to move as a consequence, but the action is pretty good, certainly on par with anything else you'll find. Just not as good as the San Martin, 6 out of 10. Moving on to dial and hands. Again, I'm not trying to make a stylistic judgment here, just looking at them materially. I think the San Martin edges it with an 8. Orient does okay for itself though with a 7. The San Martin has a nice, clean, easy to read layout, high gloss blue dial and quite deep applied indices all the way around. Nice applied hexagonal San Martin logo matching the one on the crown and on that bracelet clasp. Interesting handset, semi-skeletonized and beveled down the middle, and it's nice to see that hexagon replicated on the lollipop of the second hand. That's a nice touch. The Kamasu is a good looking watch as well though. Again, all indices are applied and quite deep. Orient logo just embossed there, not quite as nicely done as on the San Martin, and the handset are just flat. They are very legible though, and I do like the touch of colour on the tip of that second hand. Talking of colour, there's a mild sunburst effect from the dial. It's nice, but maybe not the most subtle sunburst I've seen. 7 out of 10. So the San Martin clearly edging ahead then over the last 4 categories, but we still have 2 left. Wear and brand, which is double weighted. I don't always include wear because I am very conscious of the fact that my wrist and your wrist are different, and we all have our own likes and preferences when it comes to how we would like a watch to wear. But I think the Orient edges it here as a daily. 9 out of 10, a good score. San Martin, not quite there, only gets a 7. The San Martin actually feels more considerable on wrist than the Orient, even though there's only a few grams in it. Perhaps that's because it's a little bit thicker. The reason it only gets a 7 is because there are some sharp edges here and there. The crown digs into the hand a little more than the Orient's. The bezel, as discussed, is a little bit sharper, and that bracelet clasp, as lovely as it is, also has a few sharp edges. If you wear your watch low and loose, I don't think it's going to be as comfortable a daily as the Orient. Moving on to the Kamasu, I've never been convinced by the 22mm lug width on the Kamasu. I think it would look better with 20s, but hey, that's what Orient did, so we're stuck with it. And as much as I moaned about that bracelet earlier on, it is very comfortable. I think it carries its weight better than the San Martin as well. And as much as I moaned about the case finish, there are no sharp edges anywhere. It just feels to me like the easier watch to live with long term, this one. You put it on, you take it off a couple of weeks later. It's that kind of watch, a really comfortable everyday wear piece. And last but by no means least, it's brand, a category that I always double weight to emphasize its relative importance to me. If brand isn't important to you at all, then you can remove this one and recalculate my figures. If brand is super important to you, maybe you should triple weight or even quadruple weight it. For me, it's important. I give the San Martin a 7, double to 14. I give the Orient a 9, double to 18 though. San Martin have made a great name for themselves in the world of budget watches over the last 5 years, but they are an AliExpress brand. There is no escaping that at all. They have very little brand awareness and therefore very little brand kudos and clout outside of affordable watch circles. Within those circles though, well respected, that's why I gave them a 7. Orient, on the other hand, get a 9 because they are a well-known, well-loved and well-established brand, having been formed in Japan in 1950, so they have 70 plus years of heritage behind them rather than San Martin's 5. Their budget divers have been well respected for decades, with previous model Ray and Mako selling very well. Perhaps not quite up there with Seiko. A Seiko would have got a 10 here. The Orient still does very well with a 9. So where does that leave us then? I said in the intro, we probably knew the relative strengths and weaknesses of both watches, but how does that translate to a final score? Drum roll please for the big reveal. It translates to a final score of 92 for the San Martin, 93 for the Orient. I've never had a head-to-head go that close before. When I break them down into percentages, 76.6 versus 77.5, not even a full percentage point between these two. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us that my scoring system has effectively ameliorated some of the differences between these two, and I think given us a fairly reflective score of their relative strengths and weaknesses. It also tells us that there are no bad choices here. They are both fantastic watches. If San Martin had put pretty much anything other than a Miyota 8215 in the back of this, it would have been today's winner. Materially, it is in a different league to the Orient. The crystal's better, the case is better, the bracelet is so much better. Dial and hands, bezel insert, all better. But San Martin are not Orient. This may be an original design, but they're still seen very much as an AliExpress homage brand, which is fair because they pretty much are. You can pick this one up with an 8315 instead, which does hack and has a 60-hour power reserve, but it's $30 more expensive, and that would have had an impact on the pricing score. A great watch then, beautifully well made. But after 10 rounds, the judge's decision was final and they chose the Orient. It is just such a strong all-rounder, the Orient. Great movement choice, fantastic loom, and everything else is passable. The addition of sapphire over the previous Mako and Ray ranges really seals the deal for this Kamasu. Orient's a great budget brand, and although it's decidedly middle of the road in a number of areas, it's not badly let down by any of them. It had a real scare today, the Kamasu. The San Martin came very, very close, and who knows if they release another original design next year with a better movement, the Kamasu may be dethroned, but for today, it's still the king, it's still the reigning champ. Still the champ then, why don't you watch one of my previous reviews on the Orient Kamasu? Thanks for watching this head-to-head. I'll see you all again in a future video.